Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. Special guest today. Special why? Well, he's from Montreal, and so am I, so there. Now, we worked together before in Columbus, Isle, but rather than forgetting each other, we vaguely remember each other, so I'm very happy. I do remember him now, and he's promised to send me more photos from Columbus, Isle, where we crossed paths during the 97-98 season. However, his first season was in Turks and Caicos, in September of 1995, and he was the aide econom. He is from Montreal, but has been living in London, England for the last 20 years. I'm going to ask him how he's done that. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my first season, William Connors. Hey, William, how are you?
Thanks for having me today.
Everything okay over there in England?
Yes, absolutely. It's nice. Winter's coming, just as it is in Canada.
Well, we're recording this on Labor Day. It won't come out on Labor Day, but do you have Labor Day in England?
Yes, but it's actually the week previous. So Labor Day was last week for me.
English always have to be different, don't they? Just kidding. I love the English. You know that. All right. So you know how we do here on the show. You've told me you're from Montreal and you started in 95, but I understand, did you go to university and obtain a hospitality management degree? Is that true?
Yes, I did 2 years in Carleton, and then I actually went to Japan for 2 years and taught English. And then when I came back, I was...
Wait a minute, William, hold up. We're
Sure.
sticking with Carleton because I work for Concordia University. So you mentioned Carleton. So if you're from Montreal, did you go to Carleton because Montreal did not offer that program?
Yeah, I went to Loyola, and then I went to a school called LCC for grade 12. And so by going to LCC, it basically made it very difficult for me to go to Quebec University. So I went across the border to Ontario.
LCC. We only have 11 grades in Quebec high school. So did you go to Ontario for?
No, it still is available in Lower Canada College. They have a special kind of grade 12 year. So it kind of bypasses CEGEP. And but once you do that, basically you have to go to the Ontario or somewhere else. Quebec requires a 2-year program in CEGEP.
Okay, and then you said you moved to Japan to teach English?
Yes.
How's your Japanese?
Still really good, actually. When I was there, it was actually incredibly good. And I was in a very small town called Otaru. So there was 106,000 people and there was 3 foreigners. So people were running up and down the street when they saw me. They thought it was like being an alien in Japanese culture. But they embraced me. I embraced Japan, and I picked up the language. And then immediately after, I started working in a hotel in Niagara Falls, and basically I had a Spanish phone, a French phone, a Japanese phone, and I was doing translating for parties and stuff as well, because they had pro golf tournaments and stuff. And I thought, man, I really like this. So I basically continued on, did hotel management, and got a scholarship to Schiller in Florida. And then immediately after...
Wait, sorry, William, what is Schiller in Florida?
Schiller International University. It's a hotel management school based in Dunedin, which is near St. Petersburg.
But you already had a degree in hospitality management, so was this just an extension of that?
Oh, no. Basically, the first 2 years in Carleton, it was just general university. And then basically when I went to Schiller, then that was when I got my bachelor's of business administration in hotel management.
You got an MBA?
No, not an MBA, just a BBA.
Oh, BBA. Okay, got it. Okay. All right. Wow. So at what point during all this, your work and education, did you find out about Club Med? Did you see an ad somewhere? Did somebody tell you about it?
Well, it's funny because in Florida, you would have thought that I would have been more aware of Club Med. I've always seen the commercials. I saw, everyone knew or talked about Club Med, but I didn't really have any real exposure. But when I went back to Montreal, I was working just an odd job for my family, I think. And this guy that was a windsurfer at Club Med said, "Oh, I just came back from there." And so that kind of got the ball rolling. And then I found out they were doing interviews. And so I got an interview and I got a job all in within about a month.
Okay, and you had your interview in Montreal, correct? So you applied once,
Yes.
and they contacted you. Now, where was that, at a hotel in Montreal?
It was yes, it was in I can't remember which hotel it was, but I spoke with a very nice lady, and she had a very strange range of questions, which I mean, maybe not strange,
Like
but it
what?
was. Well, she said, "Have you ever dressed up as like I think it was a duck or something?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, no problem," like that, and it I was actually thinking about when I was working as an English teacher in Japan. I was uh, doing dress ups and acting in lots of different ways to entertain my students. So basically, I said, yeah, yeah, it's kind of all the same. Little did I know that that was kind of like a like she was actually serious.
Okay. And now, this nice lady, did she ask you what you wanted to do, like for a job at that point?
No, they were actually advertising specifically for assistant food and beverage managers, aide economes, and my experience actually meshed in with what they were looking for. For jobs like aide econome or aide gestion and stuff, it's like I think I'd like to think that they have like real qualifications and stuff. It's not quite the same as some of the other jobs where people just show up like they kind of wanted to see my credentials and stuff.
And from the interview till you get the call, like how many days, weeks, months
A
passed?
week.
A
Yeah,
week. Wow, one
basically,
week.
yeah, they just said like thanks for your interview. We'd like to send you. And so I did a couple of weeks of training in Sandpiper, and then there was about 12 of us, and then it was quite funny. It was like a game show host. Philip Hoffman was the person trained me, and he says, "William, you are going to Turquoise," and so I just basically jumped on a flight after that and began my career.
Okay, so you and I both had our first season in Turks and Caicos. You were a year after me. Now, did you know that, like me, that you were fortunate enough, that you were lucky enough to be sent? Like, did you know anything about Turks?
I didn't know anything about Turks, but based on the immediate feedback by everyone, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to someplace that's
And
fun," which I was very thankful.
were they jealous and angry at you? Because if you can
Oh,
find out, everyone wants to go to Turks, right?
yeah. I mean, honestly, I didn't really know. Like, I'm happy I did, and it was a great experience, but I was completely clueless.
Okay. And you get there September 95, and Ye is the chief of village. Is that right?
Yes, there was actually quite a star-studded lineup when I arrived. So Ye was the chief of village. There was Greg, who was our chief of sports, and actually, like, yeah,
Greg Snyder is before chief of village. No, no, not Greg Snyder.
uh,
A different Greg, right? Because yeah.
different Greg. Yeah,
Okay,
actually, forgive me, I can look up his name afterwards because it is on my list. But I'm terribly sorry if I can't remember
that's
the full
okay.
name.
Who else did you have there?
Well, Cookie was the chief of animation.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Hendel was chief of land sports.
Oh,
And there was Big, who was assistant animator. So there's quite a few people starting out at the exact same time as I was.
okay. Wow. So this is I didn't know there were two bigs because I worked with a big. So I guess you have big and big. Okay. Now, yeah, it's funny because I in the information you supplied me, you mentioned Cookie, and Cookie I think was from Malaysia and a very funny guy. And I think one of your favorite animation passages is one he did, right? Can you describe that?
Yeah, well, I think actually, um, when I first arrived, I thought that maybe this is the norm, but I've never seen since such dedication to his craft, and it really was a craft. Like every single day, he had a different passage, and there was a rumor that he had like a book of about 2,000 pages of incredible things, but everything that man did was unbelievable. So the one passage that he did like when I first arrived, which was kind of around Halloween, was there was one person in a headless outfit, so the person couldn't see out, but there was another person with a hole in the table, so somebody's head was poking out, and it looked like it was on a dinner plate, and they covered it up very well. And so the head on the table was basically trying to direct the hand like to put food in its mouth, and it was absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything so incredible, like let alone in a resort, like just art in general. It was amazing.
Do you have vivid memories of arriving that first week of your first season in Turks and Caicos, or is it hazy, or did you make
Somewhat.
any mistakes?
Well, my biggest mistake, I'd say, was probably the first time like on stage, because I'd always thought of myself as a decent dancer, like, and then on stage, I kind of realized that being able to move to the music has nothing to do with being on stage and dancing within a group. So, like, it was also very
Well, wait a minute.
overwhelming.
Sorry, William. Excuse me one sec. Now, did you know that, or because your first season, that did you know that you didn't have to do the shows because you were aide econom, or you want this is something you wanted to do? You approached the animation team.
Nah, they suggested I do the shows because they said it was part of the Club Med experience, and it is. Like, I
Okay.
think anyone that works in Club Med, they should do the shows. I mean, my job required me to be up every morning at like 6:30, 7 a.m. to kind of go into the kitchens and the restaurants and stuff. But with that said, I think the shows was probably one of the highlights of my whole experience with Club Med. So I thought it was great. But with that said, it was overwhelming because everyone was incredibly beautiful. Like, my God, just everyone was tanned, and but also too, I kind of realized I'm a terrible stage dancer. Like, well, I think eventually I kind of got a little bit better, but everyone was like, "Oh, you're in the way, move!" Like that, and like I really felt like a bit of an ugly duckling to start with, but eventually you kind of get your wings and get settled in.
Do you remember the show that you were in? What it was called, or what shows you were
Cotton
doing?
Eyed Joe,
Oh,
yeah.
God. Okay, that's a pretty fast number, right?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
was completely lost. I was just being bounced around. But that
Okay.
I think later on and stuff, we were doing Tomb Raider, and I remember the person in front of me. They kind of take all the kitchen people and put them in like the shows where you don't need to be super complicated in your dancing and stuff. So for Tomb Raider, they gave a lot of the kitchen team like a torch, and so we all came in from the beach. It was kind of the first start, and then you get up on stage and do the monkey dance. And I remember I was placed in a line with my torch behind a guy with from the kitchen who had a ton of body hair. Like, all the kitchen people say, "Oh, he has a chemise," he has like a sweater. And of course, me staring at the crowd because I'm kind of starstruck. I like you kind of stop when you hit the stairs walking up the stage, and my torch hit his back, and I basically set the poor guy aflame. And I just remember him like doing this huge yelp, and then there was a big, thick smoke cloud coming off his body, and everybody kind of patted the fire off him. But like, I was just like,
Okay, so wait,
I was
let me get this straight, William. So you guy was wearing a mohair sweater, let's just call it that, and
yep.
you accidentally tripped, and then they so okay. The hair ignited, and okay.
Yeah,
I've never seen that or heard of that before. So that's a very unique story.
no, I'm the guy never did like me, and like, yeah, all the crowd started gagging with it because melted body hair doesn't really smell that good,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
so yeah, he hated me, and I just felt kind of guilty for the rest of the year. So
Well, accidents happen, right? Come
yep,
on.
yep.
What else do you remember from that first season? Did you have any JoJo stories? Did you get to see the dolphin, or were you
Yes.
always working?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with JoJo, it was actually quite good because it would pop up on the beach, and of course, the guests would be staring inwards, like towards the beach in the hotel, and JoJo would pop its head, and everyone would be like, "Look, look, look!" And the person would be like, "What?" And then like she'd turn around, and JoJo would disappear, and it'd come up again. But for myself, I taught myself how to windsurf, and so sure enough, I'm like that was one thing where like if you're learning to windsurf, you're going 5 miles an hour, and you're thinking that you're like breaking the sound barrier, and then you have some guy from the windsurf team just whip right by you, eh? So anyway, I was going my 10 miles an hour, and Jojo was right below me, and so I was just like, "Good Lord, don't let me fall, don't let me fall," But it was Jojo, not a shark, thank goodness.
Nice. So who's your boss then back then in
Corrado.
94? Corrado.
Corrado Cerruti. He was the food and beverage manager, or chef de service. And so yeah, he was a great big 6'5" Italian guy who had a real deep voice like that. And he was actually a really nice man, but it just took a while to know him. But for him, it was funny. Forgive me to break into stories right away.
No, no, we
But
like stories here.
yeah, no, we would have a méchoui, which is like they would dig out like a big part of the beach and they'd put in charcoal and they dig, and so they had a full lamb on a spit, and basically he took great pride in this. So he basically sat there on the beach, sweating profusely, and just turning the spit, and all these Americans kept coming up to him saying, "Oh, that's a funny looking turkey." And he's like, "It is lamb," like that. And they're like, "What?" He goes, "Lamb, lamb," like that. And they're just like, "Wow, oh, is that a dog?" And he's like, "Lamb," like that. And they're just like, "You talk funny, man. Take care." And even after it was like cooked and set up and whatever, they came back and said, "Dude, that was the best turkey I've ever had." And he's like, "Oh!"
Oh
He
boy.
couldn't speak much English, like but he was so funny just watching him from a distance.
Since you were already well traveled, by this point, so did you have any kind of culture shock, or we'll call it Club Med culture shock? Like, I don't know,
Uh,
the amount of speedos running around, topless women. Did you have any of that your first season?
well, I mean, yeah, there was the odd topless woman, so I would find like reasons to like walk by and just
But it's unsettling though, right? Because we're from Montreal. We're not used to that. We don't have
yeah,
any like nude beaches or nude parks.
yeah.
I was just curious if you had any, or like on like Chris working. Well, you said you had no problem working 7 days a week, right? I think you mentioned.
Well, I mean, uh, Club Med does install a very strong work ethic, and at the time when I joined, there was actually no days off. So the first 3 weeks, I think I was like, man, yep, hanging in there and stuff. And I'm kind of like, God, I'm getting tired, like this is pretty difficult. After the third week, I was like, oh God, I need a break. And but then you just kind of catch into the flow and you keep going. So yeah, like when they initiated the day off, which was a year later, it was really good. But yeah, like working without a day off, I did that for 2 years, and you just kind of guess get a farmer's mentality.
Okay. So here's something interesting, William. I find because you did your first season at Turks and Caicos, and immediately thereafter, your second season is in Valbella, Switzerland, which is pretty uncommon. That never really happens, right? Normally, you stay in the zone. So how did it happen that a North American Geo's second season, right off the bat, goes to Valbella, Switzerland? Did you request this?
No, in reality, they wanted to give me a very different site right off the bat because I had a really good season in Turks and Caicos, and Corrado and Ye and everyone spoke very highly of me. So they sent me to Valbella, which is a beautiful place in the Swiss Alps, but it was actually the most brutally hard season I've ever had. I think I arrived, and the first thing is they spoke French, which is fine. I spoke French, but probably not quite as good as the French people, of course. Everyone spoke German. There was Swiss German spoken by the suppliers, and even Italian. And so the food and beverage manager that I was working with, he goes, "Oh, Monig d'econom," like the person that's going to do all his work for him throughout the year. And I said, "Yeah, but I can't speak German like that." And the guy's like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Because Club Med sent me." And they're just like, "I don't need you. Go home." Like that. And I'm like, "Well," and so the food and beverage manager called his boss, whoever that was, and basically said, "No, he's staying. Like, we need to train him. He's over here to be trained, and if he doesn't speak German, then like tough luck.
Well,
Deal with it."
I take it that you started learning on your own some German, right? Like I'm sure you did Japan, right?
Well, I actually
Japanese.
did. I went and called my mom. I said, "Mom, send me a German English dictionary ASAP." So I started learning and translating on the spot. And again, it's kind of a difficult job to begin with, but to like pick up German on the fly is
Yeah.
really hard. But then even when I'm speaking German, I'm like, ich sprechen Sie Deutsch? Like that. Then all of a sudden it turns out that the suppliers are speaking Swiss German, which is like even different. And so I just I had a miserable time there. Like I worked so hard, and basically I saw the mountains once. Like
Okay.
the whole rest of the time I spent working my ass off trying to figure out what I was doing with a very unsympathetic French econom and German suppliers. And it was just a terrible place. Like I'm not being negative, but it was just it was a difficult time, and I was very happy to get back to my next season, which was Cancun.
That's right. Cancun, March of 97. Your chief of village was Rico Paoletti, correct?
Yeah, great man.
First time in Cancun. Imagine you had fun there, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, one thing which I think that would be of interest to yourself and possibly whoever's listening is just working in the food and beverage area. It was sometimes surreal. So I worked in Cancun with a gentleman called Ricky, and really nice guy. And there was about no less than 300 suppliers standing outside our door trying to speak with us. And so each supplier, we'd let them in. And the person would be like, okay, what do you have to sell? And they have this beautiful book with like thousands of products. And so we say, okay, fine. We want to order some flour. We want to order. And they would all say, no, hi, no, hi. And it's like, wait a minute, you've got thousands of stuff here, but you've got nothing in stock. And it turns out that everyone's just kind of basically finding out what you want and then going to someone else to find a product and selling it. So he opened up the door and said, anyone that's not able to deliver something for tomorrow, please leave. And about literally 200 people just walked away. Like, it was just incredible. Like, but also Cancun was quite the happening place.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say. Now, did you get to, hopefully you got to go out and go to downtown Cancun at least once?
A little bit, but not as much as the others. I would go out maybe once a month. But yeah, there was Daddy O's and couple of other fancy places. They were really good fun. That the nightclubs in Cancun, I think, are probably the nicest I've seen anywhere in the world.
Did you go to Daddy-O's or my favorite, Coco Bongo?
Yeah, I went to Daddy-O's probably as much as I could, which was like once a month, and Coco Bongos, I think, went once. I mean, they're just incredible.
Now, you have a funny story of Cancun about a chef asking you if his girlfriend could visit for 2 weeks. So was it this season or your last season?
No, it was that one.
Okay, so let's hear this. Yeah, so this chef asked if his girlfriend could come visit and work, and then you take it from here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess one thing that kind of is important to clarify is the chef himself just showed up one day. Like normally, they're hired in from Quebec or France or something, but this guy just showed up at the door one day and said, "Can I have a job?" And we were so desperate for chefs, they did a bit of a test, and they said, "Okay, yeah, he's pretty good." So about a month later, he goes like, at this time I was acting food and beverage manager because the food and beverage manager had gone. It was between seasons or whatever. And so he's like, Will, my girlfriend, I love her with all my heart. I'd like to have her visit me for a couple of weeks and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you got au pair. And they're like, "What's au pair?" And I go, they work for like a couple of hours a day, and they can stay with you like so for free room and board. And it was like, "Oh, okay, sounds okay." So I met her, and so I basically introduced her to the animation, and I'm like, "Okay, good, my job's done, thank you." So they gave her a bit of a tryout. And it was the stage for going into the restaurant. So, they do these little shows and stuff, but very, very small scale. So they put out the basketball bleachers. And so it was Kiss the Girl by The Little Mermaid. So they had three, I guess, sailing geos show up and kind of do the funny dance. And that was supposed to be the skit. So she comes out and she had a nice long flowing dress, a high kick and stuff. And it was all kind of normal. And then all of a sudden, like that. Off goes the top, and she was nude right from the top up. And I've never experienced in my entire life like 500 people go like that. And like I looked over at the chef, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my girlfriend." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like that.
So wait a minute. So it turns out she was a dancer, but are you saying she was kind of an exotic dancer? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
it honestly didn't dawn on me at all. So, but it didn't stop there. Like literally, like the three sailing geos just kind of completely dumbfounded, just stopped dancing. It's just one girl, and so she's running around like basically holding her assets and showing them to the crowd, and then she basically whips off the bottom, and she did keep her G-string on, so thank goodness for that. But she started doing these handstands and scissor kicks up in the air. In the meantime, I could hear the animator who was sitting over having an espresso by the bar saying, "Somebody stop her, please, please." And so he ran all the way from where the bar is in Cancun to where the restaurant is and literally tackled her and carried her over his shoulder into one of the side rooms. And like everyone was just like stunned silence. And then finally somebody came, "Dinner is served, everyone going up."
Okay.
Like, yeah,
And did
I mean, to
the
this day, I
animation
still think about it.
team come find you after? Okay.
Well, I mean, no,
I
the short
well
answer
well
is
I know she was properly vetted. I guess she was saving that like for the encore finale. I guess the you know.
well, she stuck around for 3 months. Like,
Oh,
so
okay.
it
So
was,
they okay, that's good. They probably just said don't do
I,
that anymore. Like when you're dancing to the Little Mermaid, because okay.
that's it. I was sure that all of us were going to be turfed out that night, but everything settled down. And sometimes late in the disco, she would have a few drinks and do the upside down scissor kicks thing, like fully clothed. But
Okay.
yeah,
All
she
right.
stuck around, and she actually was an okay Geo, I guess.
Well, that is Cancun, right?
Yeah.
All right. Then after Cancun, you take a break and then you go to St. Lucia in April 98. Okay. You do have a funny St. Lucia story because as we're getting close to Halloween or this will air around Halloween, would you be able to tell me your pumpkin story? Because I found that hilarious.
uh,
I found that hilarious
Yeah.
when you wrote
Oh
that.
man, I tell you, I made a couple of big mistakes as a in my job and stuff, and one of which somebody out there is going to start yelling at the monitor. I accidentally ordered like 20 cases of lime juice instead of lemon juice in Turks and Caicos. And then when I went back 3 or 4 years later, it was still there. And they're like, "Yeah, some idiot ordered this," and I'm just like, "Oh God, well, what a nut!" Like that, knowing full well it was me, like that.
Okay.
But and the similar thing happened in St. Lucia where I was very busy, and so the chef de village said, "I want to have 30 or 40 pumpkins to like kind of give to the kids." And so I was like, "Okay, yep, fine." And I was in a rush, and back then they didn't have email at the site, so basically you had to take a fax and basically fax everything to the supplier. So I had a price list, and it just said pumpkins, and it said market price and with a P. So I'm like, 30 pounds, 30 pieces. I don't really care. Like, I'll just, whatever. And I just put 30 and just sent it off. And all of a sudden, again, I never thought about it for like a month. And then all of a sudden, this truck pulls up and it had 30 pallets of pumpkins. And Philip Hoffman, my like the area manager, was actually sitting at my desk, and just to see out the window this enormous truck of pumpkins. It's the most pumpkins I've ever seen in my entire life. And he goes, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll find out. Don't worry," like that. And I go out and I said, "You gotta get out of here." And the guy's like, "Oh," and I go, "Leave, leave," like that. So the guy backed up, and I just basically took 30 pumpkins, which amounted for like half a pallet, and said, "Oh yeah, that's for the rest of the all of St. Lucia." And he goes, "It's a lot of pellets. It's a lot of pumpkin. Oh my God, who's crazy about that?" And I'm just like, I don't know. So the next day, I had a secret call with the supplier saying, "You gotta help me out here." So he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got a backhoe, and I basically dug this enormous hole in one of the beaches and just dumped all the pumpkins in." And he said, "I'll charge you like 5 or 10% extra, like over and above the regular price, just to kind of cover it." And I said, "Fine, thank you." And so 6 months later, he says, "Hey, good news! Your pumpkins have been paid off." And I completely forgot about the pumpkins like that. But yeah, somewhere, sometime, somebody's gonna find like 1,000 pumpkins, like basically buried underneath the beach. So yeah, like it wasn't my proudest moment, but uh, in retrospect, 20 years later, it's kind of funny.
Well, being in St. Lucia, please tell me, William, you had some time to windsurf there because that's one of the best spots in Club Ed. So, did you get to windsurf at all?
Absolutely. And
Okay, good.
I had a fantastic time. And there was quite a few. Speedy was in charge of the
Oh, really?
windsurfing there. Yeah, yeah.
I
And
love
he was a
Speedy.
great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, get some great wind there. You take the shuttle bus from the resort to the beach, and it's almost always blowing there, right?
Yep. And
Oh,
it was great, but it's quite funny because 6 months of the year it's blowing all the time, and 6 months of the year it's quiet. So
yeah.
yeah, but it's a beautiful place to be.
All right. Then from St. Lucia, we come to where we met, Columbus Isle. So that was the October, you stayed October 99 to October 2000. So we spent Y2K together. So was Columbus Isle one of your most beautiful resorts, and the Geo rooms were equally as nice?
Jerome's pretty good, but there was a lot of strange things about Columbus Island. One of which is I think we talked about it offline. Was they the wife of the Club Med owner designed the place, and they basically made all the rooms beautiful and the restaurants and stuff, but they did not make a place to keep the food. So if anyone goes to Columbus, at least as of a couple of years ago, they have all these 18 wheelers just parked, and that's the warehouse because they forgot to build it. Like another thing about Columbus Island is if you have tornadoes, or not tornadoes, hurricanes, it causes lots of delays. So the food and beverage manager I was working with, I said, you need to make sure that you plan in advance, like months, because the wine just like dwindles and stuff. And he's like, "No, I want to keep a low stock, keep costs low." And so we had a couple of hurricanes, and there was a delay. And so you just saw the wine just go down to zero and then nothing. And Philip, who was the chef de village, he actually said, "I need to see wine on the buffet right now." And the food and beverage manager I was with just basically packed up and left. He just left. And so me, I looked at it and I said, "Well, there's certain wines in the bar which are roughly the same price, like maybe about 10 cents, 15 cents more." So I actually just started cannibalizing the bar bottles, and that's how we got through. But there was 3 times in Columbus Island where Club Med rented a jet, like a private jet, and flew us stock, and that's what happened on that day. Basically, I called up Philip Hoffman again. I keep name dropping him, but that was what he did was he rented a jet, and they're using all the air miles accumulated by the geos moving around the world. And basically, this Lear jet pulled up, and there was about 60 cases of wine just basically balanced on each seat. And that's what we used to get through for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. Wow. Now, do you remember the New Year's the Y2K there? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, it was quite funny, actually, just with the Y2K thing alone, because it was quite the party. But there was another thing about the Y2K, which was stuck out in my mind, was when I was in St. Lucia, just going back, we had to interview all of our suppliers to make sure they're Y2K compliant. And so Club Med gave me a 180-page document that I had to sit down with each supplier and say, "Do you have backup systems? Do you have all this stuff?" Like just question after question. And all of the developed suppliers with a computer system and a transportation system, they all failed because nobody has all these backups and redundancies and stuff. So the thing is in St. Lucia, there was a bunch of farmers that would basically get a big bicycle and dump all their the stuff that they farmed and sell it to us like that. And they were the ones that were Y2K compliant because they didn't have anything. So it's like, what happens if your computer's blown? And he goes, I don't have a computer, I have a shovel. And I go, what happens if your shovel gives out? And they're like, well, I just get another shovel. And so it was such a joke that like I'd be like, okay, the man with the shovel is Y2K compliant. I'll have to work with him. you know, like unbelievable.
Okay. And then from Columbus, you stay in the Bahamas, you go to Paradise Island, and you meet for the first time Kevin Batt, who was your favorite chief of village. Do you mind saying why he was your favorite?
I mean, there's just certain people that you come across where Kevin was not only good with like people and the guests and stuff, but he actually developed people's careers. When I was listening to Eduardo, who you had on a few weeks ago, talking about Kevin Batt, I was like, yep, that's the exact same Kevin Batt that I know. He would take all of the kind of new managers or managers to be, and he had each of us read management books and do a presentation to show how the books we read would apply to bettering the hotel and your interaction with individuals. And the things that I learned that year with Kevin Batt are still things that I apply to this day. I think he touched so many people. I mean, everyone has the chef de village in general are wonderful people, but to me, Kevin stands above the rest. He's a great manager and he's a great person.
Nice. Now, in terms of, like, I also worked in Columbus Isle and Paradise Island. So in terms of your position at Econom, where was it easier to deal with suppliers, or was it both? Were they the same? Because we all know Paradise Island to me is kind of like New York City, or Nassau, if you will, and Columbus Isle is very peaceful and calm. So was it easier dealing with suppliers in Paradise?
Yeah, it was great, especially because you had Atlantis right next to you, eh? So we set up a deal with our supplier because there'd be so many people that would be like, rich and famous go to Atlantis and then basically abort at the last minute. So they would order all this fancy food and then they would not show up. And they said, well, what are we going to do with this fancy food? It's just going to go to waste. So came up with the chef de cuisine at the time was Eric Peters. And so we made a ton of money just basically providing this type of food to Club Med guests. We said, yeah, we'll buy that. We'll buy your Chateaubriand. We'll buy your filet mignon. And it was like 10% of the price. And so we had a great product. And it was actually quite funny because Eric, at the end of the year, he says, we have to have a party. And I'm like, why? We've just saved all this money. And the thing is if you are they give you, I think, the equivalent of like £8, or sorry, I'm talking English, like $8 a day per guest. And if you are well under budget, they just basically write down your budget and that's your new budget. So like there's no motivation to save money. So Eric is like, we're gonna have the biggest party anyone has ever seen, and we're going to spend to get back our budgets back up to where they are before. And so we had about 2 or 3 parties that were just absolutely blowout, and we had the greatest time. We dressed up as the guys from Blue Man Group, so we had some drums and we were smashing away at the drums, and we completely redid the entire disco in neon, and we covered up all the walls in tinfoil, and then we used neon paint, and everything basically became super neon and glowing. And I think that was probably the best party I have ever thrown in my entire life. I woke up the next morning, as I had to do every morning, and I just saw bodies everywhere.
Sounds like a good party. Yeah. Okay. And then from Paradise, you go back to Cancun for your last season, and your chief of village is Gus from Australia, correct?
Yes, another great guy. And he was just one of these guys that seemed to have talent coming out of everything.
Yes.
I mean, He was funny. He was good looking. He could play the violin. He had a beautiful wife. He had just very intelligent, really nice guy.
Yeah.
And it was a nice season.
Is there anything different from that Cancun October 2001 season to your 97 or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite funny because 2001 and 1997, I guess. 1997, the crowds were probably in their 20s, and it was just really crazy partying. So every single night, I mean, uh, I would have to wake up at 6, and so I would party until about 3, and then I'd go to sleep between 3 and 7 or 3 and 6, and then wake up, and everyone would be like, "Oh my God, you left at the best time." They just and so I missed so many stories, and when it was 2001, it just seemed like everyone had gotten a little bit older. So for myself, I mean, I kind of grew tired of the constant partying. It just wasn't my thing anymore, and it seemed like for the guests it was the same way. So it would still be fun, but you'd have what do you call it, the foam parties and stuff, and it was always nice, but it was calmer. So people would go to bed at 1 in the morning, whereas before there was parties going on until 6, 7, 8. It just seemed to never stop.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to say three things to you and you tell me what this means, okay? Kung Fu
Sure.
fighting, hands up, blame it on the boogie.
My three favorite songs for happy signs or crazy signs.
Your three favorite crazy signs. Okay, good, good. Those are actually three very different ones, and I would put those in order. Okay.
Yeah, what's it? I mean, every once in a while, now the job that I have is kind of a serious job, whatever it is. So every once in a while, in the back of my head, I'm going, "Ooh,"
That's right. Yeah.
So
do you ever hear a song, yeah, and then automatically have to prevent yourself from dancing? Has it ever happened? You're in a grocery store, I guess in England, and you hear a former crazy sign, and you're like, "Oh, please don't start moving side to side. Please don't start moving side to side." Does this happen to you?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
do it in such a way that I make sure nobody's looking, or so I'll start doing
Okay.
the side to side steps, and then if somebody looks up, I'll just basically stop and act normal.
Besides Kevin Batt, who you mentioned, were there any other employees or managers who stood out to you that you enjoyed working with or appreciated?
I mean, pretty much all of them. I mean, the thing is I probably spent a few too many years in Club Med, but it's because I bought into the lifestyle, and I bought into the concept of just making people happy, So, I mean, Ye was a fantastic chef de village, and my brother and his family came to visit, and he was so nice to them. I thought that was really special. I mean, all the chef de village people were great. Gus was fantastic. Yeah, just Rico Pauletti, super, super talented. I mean, and I just had the ability or the experience with there was Eduardo Roja, which was on the show just recently. There was Sylvie. There's tons of chef de cuisine. I mean, it was just a nice experience overall, and one that I'll carry with me forever.
Okay, I just want to just mention briefly what you're currently doing, and then we'll go back to Club Med. So, when Cancun's your last season, but ultimately you've been living in London, England, the last 20 years, correct?
Yes.
So, how's it happened that a guy from Montreal, how'd you wind up in England?
Well, from Cancun, I got a job working in Belize, of all places. That's just south of Mexico, as a food and beverage manager for Radisson. And they had lots of IT systems, and so I started. I've always loved computers anyway, but I went there, and basically the systems were crashing badly. And each time that the system would crash, they'd fly somebody in to fix it, and they would literally pay him in cash, 4,000 or 5,000 every month. And the general manager said, "I'm not paying someone to fly in every time. You have to do this." And so basically, when I finished my regular work, I would just take all these manuals and just start going through them, and I'd make little changes bit by bit. And then
Wait, William, are you saying you're self-taught on these IT systems?
yeah, I mean, I've got other stuff that kind of I've learned over the years to kind of support it. But yeah, at the beginning, I just basically would read manuals nonstop and then basically play with them and kind of go from
Now
there.
are these IT systems like just for like food and beverage? Like they're made
Well, at the
specifically?
time it was for stock and PMS and for like yeah the like till systems like food and beverage. So it was just everything like so and also to people's like computers would just stop running and so I'd be like okay well let's see what we can do and yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed it, and I've always liked tinkering with stuff. And all of a sudden, the company that provides these systems came one day and said, "Well, you don't call us anymore, so we'd like to find out what you're using." And at the time, I was quite emotional with it. I said, "I learned your system. I do it myself. I know what I'm like that." And so they said, "You know what? You're hired." And I said, "Well, I didn't really know I was applying for a job." And they just said, "Look." Whatever you're making, I think we can probably double it. So I was like, sure. And so all of a sudden, I started working for this IT company, and they sent me everywhere. They sent me to at that time Desert Storm or whatever was kicking off. Not Desert Storm. 2001. It was the first war in Iraq, and so they sent me to U.S. military bases to kind of fix their systems and I eventually made my way to England because they were really missing IT people. And actually, I ended up staying in the UK until 2009. And that's when I permanently set down roots and got married and got a mortgage.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned when you went to UK, you worked in the stadiums of Arsenal, Wembley, and Everton. Now, if this
Yes,
question's going to get you in trouble, do not answer it, okay?
that's fine.
Do you like one of those stadiums more than the others? I'm not saying the
Uh,
football team, just the stadium. Okay. Or, but if it gets you in trouble, don't answer it because I know they take it seriously over there.
no, no. I mean,
Well,
I
Wembley, we always see in the concerts, right? We always see in the big concerts. So is one more impressive than the other? Maybe that's the question.
Um, well, Wembley, they actually changed systems about 2 years after we put it in. So, and I only went there a few times and stuff. For Arsenal, I would go there probably like once a month just to watch the games because they had a box. So, like, I used to hobnob with all the big wigs and stuff. So, I suppose if there is a team that I follow, it's Arsenal.
So what's it like?
Every
What's it like? Because you might go to a Montreal Canadian game here in Montreal, but what's it like going to your first European Arsenal football game? It's crazy, right? The crowds are screaming and chanting and singing, right?
Yeah, but to be honest, Arsenal, I kind of like have a bit of contempt for their fans because basically, if Arsenal like is losing, everyone like gets up and leaves halfway through, and I find that being a diehard Montreal Canadiens fan, like even if the Montreal Canadiens stink to high heaven, I will still appreciate them. Whereas the Arsenal people, I thought it was an insult if they get up and leave on their fans. Like, so for me, even though I follow Arsenal the most, I actually don't have much respect for their fans.
Okay, and you are currently working for my two of my favorite restaurants, Burger King and Popeyes. And forgive me if I ask you this again. Why can't I get Popeyes in Quebec? Why do I have to drive to Ontario every time to get Popeyes? Popeyes, if
Uh,
you're listening,
Yeah,
come to
I'm
Quebec.
sure they will make their way to Quebec fairly soon. But
Okay, good.
yeah, it's a franchise. So the company I'm working for has bought the rights to Popeyes, and they have the rights to Burger King in Scandinavia. So for Popeyes, in the past year, we've opened about 18 restaurants, and Burger King, we've got 120 restaurants over 3 countries.
See, so I can get Popeyes in England, home of everything, and I can't get it in Quebec. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, and the
Okay.
funny thing is it's opening up a lot in the UK. Tim
What?
Hortons, like,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw a photo you recently posted, right? Of
yeah,
you in front
and
of.
I know how much Canadians identify with Tim Hortons. I think it's hilarious that they're branching out into the UK because like such a Canadian brand is taking on international business. I think it's commendable.
Well, my listeners will kill me if I don't ask you this question. So, do Timbits taste the same in England as they do in Canada?
I think so. But
Oh, you didn't have the Timbits yet? My
well,
God,
no,
man.
the problem is I know they taste good, but I have not been back to Canada in 10 years. And I forget a lot of what it's like to be in Canada. And people always ask me, like, what are your thoughts about this? What are your feelings about this? And the thing is I do my best to answer, but deep in my mind, I'm like, God, am I really Canadian anymore? I mean, like, I feel Canadian, but like I think my accent's changed a bit, like and just things like that. Like I don't know how close my feelings are with the rest of Canada now.
Well, here's the real kicker. When you dream, are you dreaming that you're talking with an English accent, like from England? Has that happened yet?
No, I mean,
Oh, okay.
I talk the way I talk, but there's probably a few words that are the norm for me now. Like I have to I always want to say pound. I don't want to say dollar. I always, I start to say the English words like I'm completely chuffed or it's chock a block on the highway. It's just stuff like that. Like, I don't think I'll ever speak with an English accent, but over time you kind of integrate mannerisms and colloquialisms in the country that you're in.
Okay, let's go back to Club Med. So, are you able to tell me the three things you miss the most about Club Med?
Oh, I mean, the greatest thing about Club Med is especially when you go to the nightclub at night, you're in a secure area. I mean, so I always felt at home in like the nightclubs and stuff, and I know that basically I don't have to drive, and there's not going to be somebody going to mug me when I come out of the disco and stuff. So that was something that I always appreciated. Also enjoyed the people because people do not go to Club Med, at least Geos. They don't do it for the money. They do it for the experience, and you're basically putting your talents and everyone else's talents in a way that is just basically giving to like contributing to the vacation of others. And I think that was a fantastic way of life, and I think that's great. I mean, probably the third thing I'd have to say is I have to admit the food. Like, I love to eat, and the ability to eat as much as I want, whatever I wanted, and like in that setting and to meet new people, I thought was always fantastic.
I agree, 100%. Now, do you have a magical season, William? Like, or of all the resorts that you worked at, do you like them for different reasons? But was there one team or resort that stood out to you the most?
I'd have to say that the first time I went to Cancun was unbelievable. Like every single night was absolutely crazy, and they were all people the same age as myself, and like everyone was just keen to have as great a time as possible. And yeah, I mean, daddy-os and coco bongos, and like just also too like the reef. Like I used to spend every afternoon like swimming like outside the reef. That was where actually you know how Cancun kind of goes out to a point. That area is kind of like where all the sharks are and stuff, which is not the place you want to go. But near the kind of like beach to the side, there was tons and tons of parrotfish and octopi and like just man, like what do you call it, stingrays and stuff. Like I went back the second time, and all of the fish kind of disappeared, but like to immerse yourself in like that type of like nature every single day for free was fantastic.
Excellent. Now, before I let you go, because I really want to thank you for sharing your story, am I forgetting to ask you anything? Anything you wanted to say? I know we covered a lot, but please tell me if
No,
there's
no.
something. Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity, and like it's also good to be able to reconnect. I love your podcast because it's bringing up all these people that I shared excellent experiences with many years ago. So it's very nostalgic.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thank you for providing this to everyone.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on my first season and sharing your story today. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks.
Everyone, that was William Connors from London, England, and we'll see you all next week. Say bye, William.
But